Go ahead. Give me one real reason why Joey McGuire is a better head coach than Dave Aranda. I'll wait on Locked On Baylor.
You are Locked On Baylor, your daily podcast on the Baylor Bears. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello there, Bears fans. Welcome to another episode of Locked On Baylor, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I'm your host, Cam Stewart of ESPN Central Texas and The Cam Show on Rogue Media Sports Network. I appreciate you, and I also appreciate you making it your first listen today and every day. Today, we're going to go over some more disrespect given to the Baylor football program and specifically to their leader, Dave Aranda. We'll also take a look at another crucial basketball game against TCU. You bet. Game of the season tonight. Plus, are the Bears kind of pickpocketing Auburn a little bit for a major recruit? Maybe so. You have to stick around to find out. All that and more coming up on this episode of Locked On Baylor. Where I want to start, the college football report. You would think with a name like that, it would be filled with journalistic integrity. College football report. It's literally reporting on the sport we love so much. Well, they put out, a ranking in the last couple of days of the literally 1 through 16 best football coaches in the Big 12. You remember there was another one that came out a few weeks ago as top 25 coaches in college football, and it was absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Well, this one's got some holes as well. Let's take a look, shall we? If you're watching on YouTube, you've got it up there right now. Kyle Whittingham takes the top spot. Dave Aranda for Baylor all the way at number 11. Now, here's what I'm going to do, folks, and I'll bring the graphic back up in a second for those of you watching on YouTube. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Dave Aranda is the best coach in the Big 12. I'm not going to do it. I could make an argument that he's the most accomplished, but I'm not going to do that either. Okay? Dave Aranda is not the best coach in the Big 12. Do I think he's 11th? I don't even think he's that low. I think he's somewhere in between there, and where I have beef for the people who are in front of him on this list. And I know there are going to be people that say, Cam, you wanted him fired last year. Yeah, we all did. But then you know what happened is they won football games, and he changed the trajectory of the program back in a positive direction. Like, that's what happens. We see this all the time. Oh, yeah, you wanted this guy fired, or you wanted this player traded. Yeah, and then they got better. And then they did their job well. And in terms of this list, when you do your job well again, that should get you some respect in this conference. But as I bring the list back up, clearly it does not. Dave Aranda at number 11. Whittingham 1, Matt Campbell 2, Gundy 3, Sataki 4, Sonny Dykes, Chris Kleiman, Kenny Dillingham, Deion Sanders, Joey McGuire, Lance Leipold, and Dave Aranda. Followed, by the way, by Rich Rod, Willie Fritz, Scott Frost, Scott Satterfield, and Brent Brennan to round out the list. Again, do I think Dave Aranda should be number 1? No. Do I think he should be in the top 5? Probably, yeah. Especially by how are we doing this? Are we going based off potential? Are we going based off what they've already done? Do you take into account the program that they took over? Do you look at championships and the bowls that they played in and won? Like, even however you dice this up, Dave Aranda probably shouldn't be 11th. Even if you're taking coaches at their worst year, I don't know if he's number 11, right? But here we are. Kyle Whittingham. How many Big 12 championships? Good question. Matt Campbell, 0 Big 12 championships. Mike Gundy, 1. Bridesmaids 7 or 8 times. Kalani Sitake, 0 conference championships. Asterisk. Sonny Dykes, 0 Big 12 championships. Deion Sanders, not even close to a Big 12 championship. Joey McGuire, not even close to a Big 12 championship. Lance Leipold, not even close to a Big 12 championship. So if we're going based off championships, wow, Dave Aranda can leapfrog quite a few on his way into the top 5. Okay? Dillingham has one. Kleiman has one. Gundy has one. I'll give Whittingham the benefit of the doubt with the Pac-12 championships. Why don't we? Okay, but then you look at the programs that these guys took over. Maybe that comes into play. The value of this. And Matt Campbell takes over one of the doormat programs in all of college football that hadn't really made any kind of turn yet before he got there. Sonny Dykes, on the other hand, he had a roster of a team that was ready to go to the national championship game. Lance Leipold took over. If Iowa State was a doormat, then Kansas was the doormat. Deion Sanders, he takes over a bad role, but clearly that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about the best coaches in the conference. And so I have to ask, with two in particular, because I've already kind of done one of these, what does Deion Sanders do that Dave Aranda has not done? What has Deion Sanders accomplished in this conference? Full stop. Let alone, what has he accomplished in this conference that Dave Aranda has not? Time Man of the Year, Sports Person of the Year, congrats. It was stupid. It was based off nothing. It was Fugazi, but you did win that. Dave Aranda has a Big 12 championship and a New Year's Six Bowl and a top 5 overall finish. And Kalani Sitake. Who doesn't love Kalani Sitake? We all do, right? 3 10-win seasons, that's great. He doesn't have a 12-win season. Dave Aranda does. So it's all about how you slice this thing up. Deion Sanders is the first one. We've been over that. That doesn't make any sense at all. Genuinely does not make any sense. 13-12. One game over 500, kind of like Dave Aranda, except without the championships. But Joey McGuire. Talk about another guy we all like to some extent. Right? Baylor guy. But what has Joey McGuire done? We like what he says. We like the money that he raises. We like the recruits that he brought in if you're a Tech fan. But what has he done? 8 wins in a season, that's solid for Tech. It's not as good as Tech gets, which some people think is the case. Tech can do better than that. But what are we doing? We measure on 10-win seasons. We measure on championships. At least that's what we do at Baylor, which is supposed to be just on the same level as Tech, if not worse, depending on what zip code you're in Texas. If you're out west and there's a lot more dirt than trees, they'll tell you that Baylor's at the bottom of the barrel, and yet they win Big 12 championships and win 10 games in a season. Tech does not. So how does Joey McGuire get that? I think he's a fine coach. Seems like a great guy, great program guy. But what tangibly has he done in order to deserve this kind of ranking? How, man? Because each of the 3 years he's been there at Tech, each time they have been dark horse Big 12 contenders. And what has he done? 8-5, 7-6, 8-5. Literally every time they're known as this dark horse. Baylor, on the other hand, usually doesn't even get that kind of credit. And certainly in 2021, they did not get that kind of credit going into the season. A lot of people said they weren't even going to make a bowl game. They went 12-2. They won the Big 12. They won the Sugar Bowl. Here on the other side at Tech, they've got all this money, these billionaires that are pouring money into this program now. They're getting all the best recruits. They're getting the great transfer portal classes. And so far, it hasn't done anything. It has not turned into anything that says, yeah, Joey McGuire is a better coach than Dave Aranda. So if there are Tech fans watching, or maybe there's just some big-time Joey apologists who watch the show, get in the comment section. Tell me how I'm wrong, because I just don't see. Hell of a high school coach. Much better high school coach than Dave Aranda. I'll give him that. But if we're talking Division I college football in the Big 12, how is Joey McGuire a better coach tangibly on paper with results? How is he better than Dave Aranda? Please let me know in the comments below, because I'm at a loss for this one. Deion Sanders, that's I don't know how he's even on the list ahead of Leipold and Joey McGuire and Dave Aranda. I personally don't see it, but maybe the cowboy hat's just that cool. I could be wrong. Coming up next, we're going to talk about another crucial basketball game against TCU. And I mean crucial, like potentially make or break of the season kind of crucial for Baylor men's basketball. That's coming up next on Locked On Baylor. But first, a word from a new sponsor. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades, Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. If you're like me, you really need that kind of help. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400 plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. You need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, you can use the promo code SH5, the number 5, for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Not necessarily the thing we want to be saying, but kind of the nature of the beast this season. First week in March, basketball game at TCU. Your season's on the line. And what we're talking about for this game tonight is just that. No dramatics needed. Baylor's season is probably kind of on the line tonight. Trying to tiptoe around it a little bit, but it's tough to do so. Baylor is a 10 seed as of this recording, which Tuesday morning will have new bracketology, but everything points to Baylor being a 10 seed right now. You can't drop much lower than that as a Power 4 team. And one of those teams on the bubble is the TCU Horned Frogs. Let's have them square dance tonight in Fort Worth. Let's talk about TCU first. This is not a very good team. In fact, all their numbers and metrics point to them being right around what you had in Oklahoma State, right? So Oklahoma State should have been an easy win, and they won by 10. I mean, they came back. It wasn't really in doubt most of the second half. Like that's a win you have to have. Oklahoma State's not a very talented team, and you got it. Here you have a similar situation. It's a must-win against a team that's not very good. They're not very skilled. They don't score at all. They're literally 0.1 point a game away from being the worst scoring team in the Big 12, which means they're not even as skilled as that Oklahoma State team you saw on Saturday. But it's a rivalry game. It's on the road, and they're on the bubble. They need this. Okay, TCU has really one signature win this year, and it's a good one. They beat Tech. It's a pretty good win, but they got worked by Santa Clara. They lost to someone else. That's a poor mid-major. Like the next signature win they have after that is beating Baylor, which is the elephant in the room here. They did beat you earlier this year. Remember the day that Ernest Uday had? And they won at the Foster. They won in Waco for the third year in a row. That's embarrassing. And we said it at the time. That kind of felt like the beginning of a bad roll. Like that can't happen. And now you're in a situation where you can't lose to them in their barn with their crowd, albeit not a terrific crowd typically for men's basketball. But if you lose this game and TCU does not make the tournament, you are up a creek without a paddle. Like, you're not going to have much of a leg to stand on. Like things have not been going well for you in terms of Kansas State falling back out of the tournament picture, Kansas slipping, Arkansas probably not in the postseason picture right now. They're they barely clinging on the last four in. and they've got SEC games left. Like, that's not obviously UConn has not been on top of their game this year. They're barely squeaking in too. Like, this is not a great trend right now for these Baylor opponents that seemed like signature wins. Now, you may get lucky on Saturday. Houston might just throw out a team of JVs out there because they've already clinched the conference title, but they might also be playing for a 1 seed. So you might not get that kind of luxury on Saturday when you welcome UH into the Foster Pavilion. So you've got to get it done tonight. There is no excuse, none. I know it's on the road. I know they're a bubble team, but if you are a nailed-on tournament team, you take care of those teams that are ranked outside of the top 68 in America. Okay, you take care of those wherever it's played. When you're facing a team that doesn't have a scorer who can put in more than 12 points a game, you've got to beat that team. Baylor has the better players. They have the better coach. They have the better resume. But it's not by that much. And if you play with your food the way you did against Oklahoma State, you might not be so lucky. You weren't lucky against Colorado. Like, you might not be that lucky to have the wherewithal to come back. Now, the positive side from a Baylor standpoint, if you want to play the numbers game and play the kind of the odds game, I don't know what you would call it, but you did win a game on Saturday against a team that's worse but fairly comparable to TCU. And you did it without having a good game from Rob Wright. You did it without having a good game from VJ Edgecombe. He had 1 field goal. It was a breakaway layup in the last 2 minutes of the game. You didn't have what you normally needed to win the game. So yeah, Jaden Nunn and Jeremy Roach might fall back down to earth, but you're due for a better game from Rob Wright. You're really due for a better game from Rob Wright, and you're due for a good game from VJ Edgecombe. So maybe that's the positive spin you have on it. But yeah, skill-wise, offensively, and for those of you who watched them this year, I think you'd agree, they're really kind of the same as Oklahoma State. And defensively, they're better. They're middle of the pack in the conference. So it's going to need Baylor to create shots. They can't win this game from the free throw line, I don't think. Maybe I'm wrong. But they're going to need to actually win this game in, offensively. And I was going to say in the half court, but they really need to get out and run too. They can't just get to the free throw line and, free throw their way into the NCAA tournament, which would be interesting because they free throwed their way out of the NCAA tournament last year. But we are going one game at a time, and there's only 2 left in the regular season. They'll be in a great position if they win both. But if they don't win this game tonight, we've got some trouble. Houston, we've got some problems here about making the NCAA tournament, and they would have no one to blame but themselves. But you can't get swept by TCU and expect to be a tournament team. You just can't do it. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think in the comments if you're watching on YouTube. Or tweet at us at Locked On Baylor. Give me your score prediction and what needs to happen, what needs to go right for Baylor to get this win tonight. Please do let me know down in the comments, or if you tweet at us. I really like hearing that from you guys. Coming up, we're going to talk about a possible stealing, possible chaotic theft from Auburn by Baylor football, just like they're going to steal a win from them on August 30th this year. That's coming up next on Locked On Baylor. One name, 2 names, if you want to get too exact. Shadarius Tootle. You heard that right. Let me bring that up again for those of you who didn't get it. Shadarius Tootle. A name to remember. It's going to be a tough one to forget, isn't it? Shadarius Tootle from Mobile, Alabama. 4-star linebacker who's right on the cusp of a 5-star. ESPN has him in the top 5, actually number 3 right now, of outside linebackers in the country in the class of 2026. Young man heading into his senior year, and has now scheduled an official visit to Baylor. In fact, he put on his Instagram, it had a graphic that said, Waco, home. And his dad, quote, tweeted it on Twitter and said, like, sick 'em Bears, let's go. And so initially I'm thinking, oh my God, they just got a commitment from this kid, scheduling an official visit. But the more I looked into it, the more I still got intrigued by it, because he's committed to Auburn, okay? Committed there in the summer. And the Auburn people loved this poll, as they should, man. He's a humongous athlete, 6'3", 210, pass rushing style outside linebacker who can drop back in coverage as well. Like, this guy is a tremendous athlete that checks all the boxes of someone you would want to have on your defense. And yet, after committing in July to Auburn, and yeah, all the stories said, you know, how he and his family were just so happy to commit to Auburn, of course, but they were so into it. In fact, Locked On Auburn, my guy Zach Blackerby, he had on his show, they were talking about how excited Shadarius Tootle is to commit to Auburn. And of course, you're going to set up some other OVs, right? That's just kind of how it's going to be. But to see the places where he's setting them up, okay, the 4 on the books, not including Auburn, so the 3 on the books are Michigan, Georgia, and Baylor. So teams that have accounted for 3 of the last 4 national championships in this great sport, and Baylor. He's also had real interest from North Carolina as well. They've got a new coach there. Old guy. I don't know how well that'll do. But looking inside those 4, which does include Auburn again, in terms of the recruiting game, you're saying one of these things is not like the other. How has Baylor caught this kid's interest? Or another way to look at it, the way I'm looking at it, is if Baylor's caught his interest, and they're even on this plane, this list of 4, you only got 4 visits that you can take. If they're one of them, they've got to be serious candidates to flip this kid. And he actually fits all the things that Baylor, I think, would need this year and haven't had recently. Of course, he can't play this year, and you're talking about 2 or 3 years in the future at best. But he has all the traits of one of those foundational defensive pieces, right? A guy who can play at a couple different positions, but pass rushing kind of linebacker who can also drop in coverage. You just don't, those do not grow on trees. That's why he's top 5 in America at his position, according to ESPN, and top 3 player in the state of Alabama, according to some of the ratings out there. That's why Auburn wants him so bad, why they think they're so happy they think they have him. But how does Baylor do that? Jamar Chaney? Really? Cooking? Again, the fact that you are in real contention to flip an Auburn commit, because we've heard from the Auburn fans with all the videos I've done about previewing that game next year, how great they are at recruiting, the money they splash out there. Baylor will never be in the same league as Auburn is recruiting. No. I can already hear it in the comment section right now. Auburn is a bigger brand than Baylor. They do have a lot of money, more than Baylor. But if Baylor's able to flip this kid, one of Auburn's really prized recruits, of course, if he does flip, then he will not be a prized recruit, according to the Auburn fans. But really one of the guys they're excited about in this 2026 class. If Baylor flips him, we got to bake a cake or something, man. Like that would be one of the great flips that Baylor's had in recent memory. And they've had some good ones here, and these guys who have not hit Baylor yet. But some of these 4 stars that Keenan Hall got to flip, if they can do the same thing for Shadarius Tootle, the sky is truly the limit for this program. Not just that one kid, but from what they've built in momentum over the last few years, the money that's been put into this program and the talent they've got on the team right now. Watch out, man. Baylor can become a danger team. Danger team. Even to the SEC. Yeah, even to the SEC. Shadarius Tootle, remember the name. It's going to be tough to forget. Let me know what you think about this young man about Baylor's recruiting strategy and how it could get even better in the future. Let me know down in the comments section below. Be sure to like and subscribe. It helps out the channel a ton. Plus, you can ring that notification bell to get notified every time we're dropping a video on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you so much for making it your first listen today and every day. We will see you after the TCU game on your favorite show, Locked On Baylor.